Let's start with, tell me about your first experience with Shakespeare. What is your history with Shakespeare?
Well, in English schools, they force you to learn about Shakespeare, and it's boring because it's sort of like medicine stuffed into your brain like some ghastly little pill or some gloopy cough syrup. And then, like, I was trained to be an actor, and I went to like a good drama school, and they teach you about, like, you know, they teach you again, and you start to discover all this like magic in the language, and importantly that Shakespeare like plays had to compete when public entertainment was like bear baiting and dog fighting, and most interestingly, a monkey on horseback. You could go and pay like, I don't know, a couple of quid, a few dollars. A monkey on horseback being attacked by dogs, right? Which is very cruel, we now know, in the modern world, but in them days that would have been fun. So like, it's disgusting. I'm vegetarian, member of PETA, all that stuff. So, but like in them days, so Shakespeare plays had to be entertaining in a very sort of straightforward way. It had to be powerful. So then you start to engage with, oh, it's not just for posh people or educated people. It's accessible mass entertainment. So by the time, like, you know, Julie Taymor goes, do you want to be in this? I mean, of course, having now worked with a brilliant director like Julie, that's heightened my understanding of Shakespeare. But like, I was ready to do something like that, and very, very honoured to be asked in such incredibly illustrious company.
Well, speaking of illustrious company, I'm sure that growing up, you knew who Helen Mirren was. She has a very special status in the UK. So what was it like to realize you'd be working with her in The Tempest?
Daunting initially, the prospect of working with Dame Helen, because she's called Dame Helen. That sounds like, oh my God, Dame Helen. She's going to karate chop me in the windpipe and sneer and icy stare and freeze me, and I'll genitally retract. But actually, she's this sort of convivial, warm, beautifully talented human being. That's just like, so there's some people that just to be in their presence heightens things, and she's certainly one of those. She's a wonderful actor, and like, I remember I'd done my first scene, right, and I was like doing, like, Jaimin was in it, but he was like on the floor, meant to be hiding under a blanket, and Helen like came and watched me, and then afterwards she went, well, that was fantastic, that was brilliant, and I've like made me feel like confident, because it was such a generous and kind thing for her to do. And since then I've sort of fallen in love with her, really, in a kind of, in the way that one can fall in love with someone enamoured of. You know, she's a beautiful person.
Yeah, in this you get to, for the most part, play in a really interesting and fun trio, Alfred and Jaimin. So let's start with Jaimin. Talk to me about working with Jaimin Hansu.
He's an incredibly intense man. I think he's a brilliant actor, and I think it's an extraordinary performance from him. He was somewhat impaired by the 8-hour makeup job that he had to do each day to look like that. I think it's a phenomenal look, but like, it must have been really horrible to wear that makeup. I think it sent him a bit mad. Like, but I think it came out in the performance and made the performance better, even better. Alfred Molina, he's like the loveliest, most brilliant uncle one could ever hope to encounter. Sort of like spent like very generous with his time. Like, and I was always because he teaches acting out of some sort of, I don't know, humanity or something. He continues to teach people, right? And so I thought, like, oh, I'll get information off him. I'd always ask him stuff, but he was always far too sort of modest. He'd go, oh no, do what you're doing, you're brilliant, just use your instincts and stuff like that. But he's lovely to be around, sort of, you know. So working with him was a very good dynamic, wonderfully comic because of sort of like the intensity of Jaimin and sort of and the nature of that, like his character being sort of oppressed by us as two rogues. You know, and working with, I liked that being like in a double act with Alfred Molina, because he's funny, man. He's like, you know, he's I think he's a very great English actor, and like, because he's played like a real life comedian called Tony Hancock in a biography, and Tony Hancock was a wonderful, just post musical era sort of stand up comedian, comedy star, I guess like Jack Benny or something. You know, and he was like hilarious. You know, he was hilarious as that. He's got amazing comic timing, and yeah, beautiful quirks and rhythms and ticks. A wonderful person.